Hello friends, I am Dr. Sonal Chabda and the topic of today's session is instructional methods. In every classroom, according to the topic, according to the learner needs, the teacher uses different methods. It also depends on the personality of the teacher that what kind of method does she use. The kind of methods which are used in common teaching learning situations, primarily they are classified into two categories. One is the instructional methods and second is the learner centered methods. In this session, we are going to focus on the instructional methods. We are going to have a deeper understanding of the principles behind the instructional methods and the different instructional methods which are used in the common teaching learning situations. The first method, now let's just understand what are instructional methods. In these methods, the teacher is more active in teaching and instructing while the students are playing a more passive role. They are acting in a limited way only when they are directed by the teachers. So, in a way, these are the methods which are generally governed by the teacher. They are teacher controlled method and the learner has a very subliminal role to play in the enactment of whatever the teacher is doing. So, the learner is going to react only when the teacher has directed him to do so. Otherwise, it is a teacher directed method. There are different kinds of teacher directed methods or the instructional methods which are used in common teaching learning situations. They are lecture method, demonstration method, and we are going to start our discussion with the lecture method. Let's understand what is lecture method. It's a method in which teacher instructs or she gives a lecture on a topic for almost the complete time in the period. So, this is if it is a 35 minutes lesson, it is almost 30 minutes which are occupied by the teacher's speech. She is the one who is giving a lecture on a topic for almost the complete phase in the time period of the class which is happening. The students, as earlier said, they have a very limited kind of role. So, they are the ones who are passively listening and they are not the ones who are actively engaged in any kind of activity in the teaching learning situation when the lecture method is being used. The teacher provides information. She provides the information on concepts, facts, events, theories, laws, principles or any other form of knowledge. Sometimes she may use blackboard also during his or her lecture and asks question at the students. Now, when she asks questions or he asks questions to the students, it generally depends on the style of the teacher. There would be teachers who would like to engage the students even in this teacher dominated method. So, they may use blackboard for writing down certain important points on the blackboard and also involve students in the lecture by asking them questions or probably by asking them opinions on certain points also. Here the students are passive listeners. Their activities during the lecture method at best are taking down some kind of notes and responding to occasional questioning of the teacher. The kind of note taking which is done by the students also depends on the manner in which the teacher is engaging in the lecture. It really depends on how she complements, delivers the lecture, whether she classifies it into different categories so the students can take notes, and also it depends on the note taking ability of the student also, that how much he wants to or she wants to pen down whatever is being said. So, the involvement here of the student is only by taking down notes or probably answering to the questions which have been posed by the teacher. Now, within a single period, the teacher may unwittingly present more information than students can grasp in, and also the method provides no accurate means of testing the students' progress. So, there is no option to know that whether the students are even understanding what the teacher is trying to deliver through the lecture or not. She is just going on with the process. She has to deliver a certain kind of content, a certain amount of content to the students during that 35 minute, 45 minute, whatever the duration of the class is. And she does not has any scope that she checks on that is the student understanding or not, is the student progressing on the learning front or not. Moving further, teacher presents the subject matter at his or her own speed. The teacher is not concerned about the speed of the student. He or she is concerned or he or she is wary only of the speed at which he or she can deliver the content. So, she is not concerned about that. The content is presented as a whole and the students learn through listening and probably some kind of memorization if they engage into. It also depends on that how much the students are involved in the process of lecture. If the teacher has good stimulus variation skills, she may be able to hold the attention of the students, and the students may be learning through listening and some kind of memorization. But if the teacher lacks that kind of skill, the kind of learning and the amount of learning which would be happening during the lecture method is under a doubt. Now, let us understand what is the applicability of lecture method. What kind of situations the lecture method is fruitful or relevant for. The lecture methods are useful when they have to be applied in situation where a large amount of information, probably a theoretical kind of information, has to be given to the students, and it generally fits well with the classes of higher education or probably the senior secondary classes. But when it comes to the classes of primary section or the secondary section, this kind of method does not find itself too much relevant in those situations. So, as said earlier, one has to see where a kind of method is being applied or a kind of method is being used. If it is suiting to the needs of the learner, there is no harm in using a lecture method also, and obviously there are situations where only a lecture method would be useful and there would be no other method which could be implied in or which could be used so well. Okay, we are done with the lecture method. Now, let us move further. We are talking about the demonstration method. Now, demonstration method is a method which is generally associated when there are some simple experiments which have to be done in the classroom and which can be explained simultaneously. Now, there are different kind of experiments which are associated. If we talk of the primary classes, probably in the science or probably even in social science, there are certain kind of experiments which have to be done. Now, these kind of experiments, some would be done only in the laboratory settings and some could be done in the classroom situation. Now, demonstration is a method where these experiments can be conducted in the classroom by the teacher, and she can explain those experiments simultaneously. As she is proceeding to the demonstration, as she is showing the experiment, simultaneously she is engaging in the process of explanation of the concepts which are related to it. Now, this way of teaching is known as the demonstration method. There are other words which are used for this method are like demonstration cum discussion method, or at times lecture cum demonstration method. Now, the usage of the words like demonstration cum discussion method or lecture cum demonstration method depends on how the demonstration is being applied in the classroom. If the teacher is using lecture along with demonstration, it becomes lecture cum demonstration. Again, if the teacher is using demonstration method and she is trying to involve the students in the process, she is engaging them in the process of discussion, then that method would become demonstration cum discussion method. But primarily among these two methods, the prime thing is the demonstration which is being done by the teacher. Now, since demonstration is a thing which is being controlled by the teacher, so that is why it comes under the category of instructional methods or the teacher dominated methods. Now, let us understand what are the different characteristics of demonstration method. Demonstration method, as said earlier, it is a teacher centered method because it is the teacher who is demonstrating the pictures or the experiments. Some kind of charts may be used for the same, or there would be models which could be used for the same, and she is explaining the principles, she is explaining the concepts which are involved in these demonstrated materials or processes. So, whatever materials are being used, if she is using a chart for the purpose, or if she is explaining the process of water cycle with the help of a model, then she is using those materials to explain the process. But probably if she is trying to classify the kinds of nouns which are there in the general usage of our daily life, then probably she may use a chart for the same. So, then it becomes explanation of the concept through the demonstrated materials. So, the same process can be used for explaining the concepts also and for explaining the processes also. Here the student observes the demonstration which is shown by the teacher, and some of them participate in answering the questions which are asked by the teacher, and they may draw to conclusions also. So, here again if you see, it really depends on the teacher that how much she is going to let the students be involved in this whole process. If the teacher is going to ask the questions to the students, or probably if she is going to ask the students, please help me in arranging the material, or some kind of thing she is letting in wherein the students are getting involved in the process, then definitely the results of this kind of lesson would be better even if it is a teacher directed method. Now, let us understand the different steps which are involved in the demonstration method. One can see in the diagram that there are 5 steps to the demonstration method. Number 1 is planning, number 2 introduction, number 3 demonstration, number 4 blackboard usage, and the last step would be a concept compilation process. Now, let us understand what is happening in each of these steps. As we start with the first step, planning. Planning is which is ensuring whether the lesson is suitable for this method or not, because this is a process which the teacher is going to engage in before she enters the classroom. Now, since she hasn't entered the classroom, she is looking at the content, so she would realize that whether it is suitable for this kind of method or not. If it's suitable, she is going to go ahead with the same. If it is not, she is going to choose another method for the same. So, it really depends on the topic, on the lesson, that you are going to decide that which method you are going to use. If it's a method where some kind of chart or model or experiment can be used, then one is going to use a demonstration method. But if it's a method, if it's a topic wherein only you can deliver the content, then probably a lecture method would suit to be a better one. Also, it depends on the classes for which you are doing. So, the age group for which we are doing also determines the kind of method we are going to use for that particular topic. Here the teacher would collect the necessary tools, equipments and materials for the demonstration. So, planning is an essential step for the demonstration process, because it shouldn't happen that the teacher has entered the classroom, she has started with the process and then she is looking for, oh, I haven't got that material, I am missing that material. So, she needs to go through a proper planning phase where she collects the proper tools, necessary equipments and materials for the demonstration of the experiment which she is going to conduct in the classroom. Then a good teacher would be somebody who would rehearse the experiment before demonstrating before the class, because that's going to be something which is going to add to the confidence of the teacher. It will help in building confidence among the teacher also for that particular content and for that particular method of demonstration also, because one needs to have the confidence in the kind of method which one is using when one is engaging in the process of teaching learning in a classroom. Further, one needs to be ready with the explanatory notes and questions to be used during and after the demonstration. Now, if this kind of activity is being carried out in the classroom, definitely some kind of notes should be shared with the students. Notes in the sense the kind of explanation you are going to give for a particular process and some kind of questions which you are going to engage in, so that the students can be involved in the process. If the teacher has planned in this manner, she has made herself ready with the content, she has made herself ready with the tools and she has made herself ready for the explanation. To add on, if she has rehearsed it well, there is no doubt that this kind of method is going to be very successful in the delivery of the content in the classroom. The next step after planning is the introduction. How the teacher is going to introduce a particular topic in the classroom also determines to a large extent the kind of involvement the students are going to feel about the topic during the teaching learning process. Now, introduction is a stage where she can motivate the students to arouse the interest in observing the experiment keenly and try to accept new ideas after the demonstration. Amongst all this discussion, one needs to remember it's not the method per se which is producing a particular kind of result. It largely depends on the teacher, how she is doing it. So, if she is introducing the lesson in a manner, or if she is introducing the demonstration in a manner where she is able to arouse that curiosity in the student, she has done half a job. It's going to be very easy to make the students sail through the lesson if they are interested in the lesson. Secondly, she should introduce the lesson as a problem, as an issue, so that the students understand the importance of the lesson. She shouldn't introduce herself, let's do an experiment kind of thing. That's not going to be something which is going to arouse curiosity in the students. But if she is introducing a lesson in a manner in which she is going to say that let us explore, or probably let us see what happens if I do this kind of activity and what is going to be the result of this kind of activity. So, it really depends on the skill of the teacher, that how well she uses the stage of introduction to arouse curiosity and an interest among the students, so they are fully engaged in that process. Moving further, after the planning and the introduction stage, the third step is the demonstration. Now this is the do stage which is actually happening in the classroom. Here the teacher needs to keep the curiosity of the students alive during the whole process of demonstration. Remember, if the students miss the curiosity at any stage, they are going to be there, but they are not going to be there. So if you want your students to be alive throughout the classroom or throughout the class or throughout the teaching learning process, please maintain that kind of interest during the whole demonstration process. I would again recall here that it's not the method which is creating an interest in the student. It's the manner in which the teacher is using that method which is creating an interest in the students. Moving further, the teacher should take care to ensure that the students are able to follow the demonstration. That means from a distance also they are able to see the demonstration. From a distance also they are able to understand what the teacher is doing. So it becomes important that the teacher speaks throughout the lesson. Whatever activity she is doing, it shouldn't happen that she is only doing it. She should be reading it out also. She should be talking about it also, that I am adding so and so liquid to so and so vessel and now let us see what happens. So all this would create curiosity and maintain an interest among the students. Further, the teacher should relate the demonstration with the life experiences of the students. The teacher should not maintain that the demonstration is happening only in this classroom. If the students are going to feel that this is something which they can relate to the experiences of their life which is happening outside the classrooms also, that is going to add to the worth of the knowledge the students are gaining. If the students find whatever is happening in the classrooms related to whatever they are experiencing in their own life, definitely they feel better about whatever they are going through. So it's going to be a good idea if the teacher relates the demonstration with the life experiences of the students. Next, the teacher should handle the instruments safely. She should arrange them in a respective places for the demonstration. So it's not only that the teacher is doing the demonstration, she should definitely take care of the kind of instrument she is using. She should use them carefully, she should place them carefully. It shouldn't be hurting the child in any case, hurting any child in any case, because the safety of the child is the most important thing amongst all the other things which is happening in the classroom. So she should take care that she is using the instruments carefully, she is placing them in their respective places for the demonstration. This is going to help her in doing the demonstration also and imbibe in students certain kind of skills of being organized and of being arranged also. So remember, it's always when teaching is happening in the classroom, it's not only that the content knowledge we are delivering to the students. You're giving a lot more to the students by your teaching learning process or by the kind of mannerisms which you're following in the classroom. So a teacher should take care that she uses the instruments properly and she is placing them in respective places for the demonstration. The fourth step in the process is the use of the blackboard, or simply put, the blackboard usage. The teacher should write the objectives clearly on the blackboard to make the students understand the significance of the demonstration method. So whatever activity, whatever demonstration you are going to do in the classroom, please write down the objectives of the same on the blackboard in the classroom. So what is going to happen here is the student is going to expose to be different sensory modalities. The student is not just seeing the things, she is reading the things also from the blackboard. So that is going to add to the process of learning, add to the quantum of knowledge the student is going to experience or student is going to gain during the process. The teacher can further draw relevant pictures and write the key concepts and the results of the demonstration immediately after the demonstration on the blackboard, because there would be n number of students in the class and everybody is going to have a different grasping power. Remember, all students are not alike. So the teacher needs to respond to the different learning needs of the different students. There would be students who would have just gathered the concept from the demonstration which you would have done in the class, but there would be others who would need further elaboration on the same. So it's going to be a good idea if the teacher writes the key concepts and the results of the demonstration immediately on the blackboard once the demonstration has been done. Then what more the teacher can do to make the process more interesting is she can ask the students to write the key points, draw the diagram and finally the results in their notebooks. Now, what is going to happen through this process of making them draw the diagrams and asking them to pen down the results in their notebooks is that the student is also going to feel more involved in the process. Then it is going to be a method wherein maybe the teacher directed method, but even in a teacher directed method, you can make venues wherein you can involve the students to an extent that they feel better about the process and they feel that they are also a part of the process. So, the teacher can probably, when they are writing in their notebook, she can make a round in the class and she can let them check, or she can also check the notebooks while they are writing. Now, there are some considerations which teachers should keep in mind while doing the experiments in the class. The teacher should tell the purpose of the demonstration to the students, but do not tell them the inference or the conclusions in advance. So, once the teacher is going to start with the process of demonstration in the classroom, she should tell them the objectives, but not the conclusions or the inference. If you tell them the inferences or the conclusions in advance, then they do not lose any kind of, then they do not hold any kind of interest in the classroom. They would lose the interest in the demonstration. So, if you want to sustain that interest in the classroom, please do not engage in telling them the results or the conclusions in advance. Just engage in the process of telling them the objectives of the demonstration or what they are going to do and what they want to do or what process they are going to engage in. Further, the teacher can seek the help of the students in arranging and performing the experiment also. It's a known fact that the quality of demonstration is going to be better when you as a teacher along with your students are actively participating in it. If it's only the teacher which is doing the demonstration, if she is the one who is handling all the experiments or who is handling all the equipments, the students feel left out. They do not feel that they are a part of the classroom. So, even in a teacher directed method, the teacher can make venues wherein she can involve the students in the process. So, how can she do is, she can ask the students to please help me in arranging these equipments, please help me in arranging those equipments, or can you do this for me or can you do that for me kind of thing. But here again the teacher needs to remember at what stage you can involve the students, and you should know the points where you do not want to involve the students, because there may be processes which may be a bit risky for the students to handle them. So, then the teacher should know that where I am going to do the process and where I can seek the help from the students. The teacher should be well versed in handling of the apparatus and arrange those for the demonstration in a definitive order which the students can clearly observe. Why this becomes important is because you shouldn't be laughed at in the classroom if you are not able to handle certain kind of equipments in the classroom. So, the teacher should know how to properly manage all the apparatus which she is using in the classroom. Another point or another consideration which the teacher should keep in mind while engaging in demonstration is, please check that the demonstration is clearly visible to all the students in the class. You need to make sure that if the students sitting at the back also are able to see your demonstration properly. If the students are sitting at the back and they are not able to see, or probably the students sitting on the edge of the classroom, if they are not able to see, they are going to be the ones who are going to manage the discipline in the class. So, you need to make sure that everybody is able to see whatever you are doing in the classroom. You may have to make certain kind of small changes for the same. If you have to conduct a demonstration in the class, probably you would have to make some kind of different sitting arrangement also. And it's worth if you make those changes in the sitting arrangement and you're giving a better class to them, so it works better. Another thing which the teacher can keep in mind is ensure that the demonstration is simple and according to the mental level of the students. Please do not use demonstration only for the sake of using it. Use it only if it is according to the level of the students and if it meets the needs, learning needs of the students. Supplement the demonstration with other kind of teaching aids also to make it more real and interesting. You have done an experiment, you have conducted an experimentation in the classroom, done with the demonstration. You can also use a chart to demonstrate the same things. You can draw a diagram on the chart. Now, the chart is going to be something which is going to be in the classroom for a longer time. So, the effect of the demonstration or whatever process they went through is going to remain in their minds for a longer duration. So, these kind of little efforts which the teacher makes is going to add to the worth of the demonstration. Then another thing which the teacher can engage in is she can ask reflective questions to the students to stimulate the interest of the students. If she is going to engage in the process of questioning, she is making them think on those lines, which is going to arouse the interest of the students further in the process or in the concept which you are trying to explain through the demonstration method. Now, we are done with the demonstration method in the sense that how a teacher can do it and the different kind of steps which are involved in the demonstration method. Now, let us understand what are the advantages of the demonstration method. The first point here comes in is it is a very cost effective method. Why? Because here it is only the teacher who is doing it and it is only the students, it is all the students who are seeing it. So, you are doing once and you are making all the students see it. So, it becomes more economical and also it becomes more time saving, but it definitely depends on the age group with which you are using it. If it is a higher secondary group or if it is a higher education group, then probably demonstration would not be that successful as compared to a practical experiment which would be done. So, it also again recalling or re-emphasizing the point that it depends on the learner's need. If the learner's need demand, then one has to do the demonstration. If the learner needs are much above that, then one would engage in the practical experimentation by all the students present who are there. The teacher explains the concepts during the experiment and so the students are clearly able to understand the concepts of the lesson. This is another advantage which is associated with the demonstration method, because it is the teacher who is doing it, the student who is listening to it, the student is also seeing it, and she or he can engage in some kind of reflection and she can clearly understand the concepts of the lesson. If she is able to do that kind of thing, then the method gets justified. Moving further, during the demonstration, the doubts of the student are cleared by the teacher then and there. There are no reasons the teacher would hold the demonstration method for any kind of reason. She would do the demonstration method there, she would explain it to the students there, she would use other kind of teaching aids in the classroom, and if the student needs any kind of clarification on the same, doubts would be clear then and there, because it is a process in which the students are directly seeing the process also. It is not something which they have to go back to home, read it and then the doubts would arise in mind, because it is happening in the classroom, students are seeing it, they can clarify their doubts then and there. Another advantage with the demonstration method is that during the demonstration, students get opportunities for a number of activities. What kind of activities? The activities would be observation, note making, questioning, drawing and getting involved in experiments. But it also depends again on how the teacher does that. If she does it in a manner that the students feel involved, if does it in a manner that the students get a chance of making the notes and other kind of things, then the method is going to be successful. But let us say if she does not lets the student write down anything of those kinds, then it does not turns out to be that successful. Another advantage which is associated with the demonstration method is it reduces the distraction. It promotes sustained intention among the student and paves way for useful learning. So, what is happening here is it is sustaining the attention of the students, but when? It is going to sustain the attention of the students only if the teacher is doing the demonstration in a rightful manner. Remember, I earlier also emphasized and I am again recalling that same point, that it is not the method which is creating any kind of impact. It is the method along with how the teacher is using that method which is going to leave an impact. So, if she is able to sustain the interest, then it is going to pave the way for useful learning. But if she is not able to sustain the interest, then it is not the fault of the method. It is the fault of the teacher how she is using that method in a particular manner or in a particular classroom situation. Demonstration method also stimulates learning and attempts to retain the student interest. This is almost a repetition of the point which we have earlier said, that it is able to retain the student interest if the demonstration is being done in a manner that it is able to hold the attention of the students. But then in this method also there are certain things which need to be taken care of. If the teacher is not able to hold the attention of the students, if the teacher is not proficient with the use of the apparatus, or if the teacher is not very clear with the how that activity has to be done in the classroom, then the demonstration method won't be able to retain the interest, or the demonstration method won't be able to reach all the objectives or all the advantages which we have discussed that what demonstration method leads to. So, it is teacher combined with the method which is going to lead to an impact. So, we are done with the lecture method, we are done with the demonstration method. There is another popular teacher directed instructional method which is called the inductive deductive method. Now, let us understand what is this inductive deductive method. As the name says, inductive deductive method is comprised of the two methods. One is the inductive method and second is the deductive method. Let us understand what is inductive, and then we are going to understand how the deductive method works. Now, inductive method is a method in which one proceeds from one particular event or a set of particular events to generalized conclusions. So, you are starting from here and you are moving to a larger sphere. A formula or a generalization is arrived at through a convincing process of identifying the similar elements and the conditions of those similarities in a number of concrete cases. This is how the inductive method is working. Now, let us understand what the deductive method is. Now, this is a method where the teacher uses the established formula or a principle or a generalization to solve the problem. So, here the formula is already there, the principle is already there, and we are using that principle to solve a particular problem. Well, what was happening in the inductive method was, you have a set of events for yourself and you were deriving the principle from that. So, the students proceed from general to particular, from abstract to concrete in case of deductive method, and in case of inductive method they are moving from concrete to abstract. In other words, in deductive method the facts are deduced or analyzed by the application of the established formula. So, the formula is already there, the principle is already there, and you are deriving your understanding from that. You are solving different problems based on that understanding or based on that principle or on that formula. Hence, the formula is accepted by the students as a duly established fact. Now, until and unless you understand that what is a fact, or until and unless you accept that the fact is true, only then you will be able to engage in that kind of method and understand how it goes. So, the basic difference between an inductive method or deductive method is, in an inductive method you see it moves from theory, then you move down to hypothesis, then you move down to definition, and then you lead to confirmation of the same thing which started from the theory. While what is happening in the deductive method is, you are moving from information, then you are coming down to hypothesis, then some kind of tentative hypothesis, and then you are coming down to theory. So, this is how the inductive and the deductive methods are working. Inductive is moving from concrete to abstract, and in deductive method you are moving from abstract to concrete. Now, to understand this whole process of teaching methods, of instructional teaching methods or of teacher directed method, we have gone through the process wherein we have understood the lecture method, where we have understood the demonstration method or the inductive deductive method. Particularly for the inductive deductive method, one needs to remember that for effective learning, both these methods should be used together, as one is not complete without the other. One cannot use only the inductive method to explain a concept, and one cannot use only the deductive method also. There has to be a combination of both inductive and deductive if we intend to engage in effective learning. So, overall in this whole class we have talked about the teacher directed methods, popularly known as the instructional methods. These are the methods which are teacher dominated, wherein the teacher is engaging in the process or she is controlling the process a little more than what the students are doing, but it really depends on the teacher that how she is using those methods. The teacher can make even the teacher directed methods to be more fruitful for the students, because the usage of these methods depends on the needs of the learner, the age group of the learners, the topic and the available resources with the teacher. Thank you all. That's all for the session.